Do you want to tell us about your work helping the migrants?
Happy to share. I'm the director of Del Camino Jesuit Border Ministries, which is our project here on the border. We're a small team of Catholic priests and religious who focus on migrant accompaniment, especially sacramental ministry and pastoral accompaniment of the migrant population on both sides of the border here. What does that look like? It means we celebrate Mass when we visit shelters on both sides of the border in Mexico and here in the United States. And so we've been here for about 4 years, starting in the summer of 2021. And so we've seen a lot of changes and adjustments. A big part of our mission is to read the reality and respond to it. And so the reality often looks different. So we have to respond to the changes in border policy and politics and be responsive to those needs. And that's been what's informed our work over these past 4 years.
And what have you heard from migrants about their fears of encountering ICE, even in supposedly safe spaces like courtrooms or churches?
We're concerned right now that there is a climate of fear throughout our country. And so the current administration has made promises to deport lots of people, and it's said it's going to deport criminals. The problem is there's not that many criminals among the migrant population. So what we're seeing is the criminalization of migrants. And that's creating a culture of fear because people who have been following the laws and doing everything right and are contributing members of our community might be undocumented. And now they're living in fear that even a trip to the grocery store could be a time where they're picked up by immigration authorities. And the government has made it clear that they consider no space safe, including spaces that are typically considered sanctuary spaces like churches and schools and hospitals. I'm not aware of any situation where migrants have been taken inside the church facility, but I know people who are afraid to go to church because they know it's a possibility. That's concerning to me that we're creating this culture of fear where someone doesn't even feel like they have a right to practice their faith and are staying at home as opposed to going out to church just because of this culture of fear.
What have migrants taught you about resilience, faith, and hope, especially when they face such severe setbacks?
I'm inspired by migrants every time that we accompany them. Every time I'm celebrating Mass with migrants, I see how much they turn to their faith as a source of strength, as a source of hope, even in situations of so much despair. Migrants in their journey are taken advantage of throughout the entire journey. They are exploited all along the way, from government officials who ask them for bribes to allow them to pass by, from cartels that kidnap them and hold them for ransom, for travel companies that charge them outrageous prices for next day travel on buses or planes, especially when they find out they're migrants, to in our country where employers exploit their labor and don't pay them a just wage, to governments that tax the remittances they send to support family back home. I mean, exploitation, exploitation, exploitation all along the way. And how do migrants respond? Somehow they still respond with a sense of resilience and strength. And so much of that, as I see, comes from their faith. They know that God's walking with them, that part of our faith tells us that we too are going to suffer in this life. You know, we believe in a God who became man and suffered and died on the cross for us. And so suffering is a part of our life too. But that doesn't have the final word in our story, because just as we share with the sufferings of Christ on the cross, so too can we share with him in the glory of his resurrection. That's part of the message of our faith. It's part of the message we try to preach and share with migrants, but no one reveals that reality to me more than the migrants that we accompany and celebrate Mass with on a regular basis.
What would you say to a Catholic who sees ICE as simply doing its job? How should people of faith wrestle with complicity and unjust systems?
I'm very sympathetic to people who are involved in this system. You know, when I see cases at immigration court where a representative Department of Homeland Security dismisses their case, where the immigration judge accepts that dismissal, even if the migrant is pleading to keep their case open and current, the ICE officials that put them in handcuffs, put the migrant in handcuffs and put them in an unmarked vehicle outside. I mean, there's a lot of actors involved, from ICE agents to immigration judges to representatives of the government and the Department of Homeland Security. And I'm sympathetic to them in the situation they're in. I mean, there are ICE agents who are members of our parishes and great contributors to our community. And for a lot of them, it's a job for them that helps them to support their families, right? And I think there are a lot of people in these positions, whether it's DHS or immigration judges or ICE, who might not even be in agreement with what our government is asking them to do right now. So I don't throw as much guilt on the people who are participating in it so much as I do the people who are creating the system and demanding it of people. Now, of course, I'd invite everyone to reflect on their conscience of, what am I doing? Is my job asking me to do something that is unjust, that is against my conscience? And to respond accordingly. I mean, I think all of us are challenged to not just say, I have to do it because my boss told me to or because my job demands it. Now, that doesn't mean I'm calling out everyone to resign their jobs and positions. I know people can be in very delicate situations. as they care for their own family and their own livelihood. And so it's a challenging prospect. But like I said, most of all, I'm sympathetic to people who are forced to do things like this. And I cast judgment and blame primarily on the people that are asking everyday workers and employees to participate in systems of injustice.